Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about some major changes coming to the way the Azerite system is going to work in the next patch, Tides of Vengeance. So I'm going to go over what these changes are, and then I'll give you my thoughts on them. These changes are sparked, in my opinion, probably because of a very loud, vigorous outcry from the community and from some of the leaders of the community, some of the bigger, more known people really calling out the state of the game. Specifically, everyone kind of was pointing to Azerite and not liking the way it is set up. So let's go ahead and talk about what these changes are going to be. In a previous video, I'd already mentioned that they are going to add more rings to it, and those rings are going to emphasize a specific class trait. So that, because for some people, for example, like a versatility and speed trait is better than any of the actual traits that do things. So they want you to choose your class trait, and then if you still want to choose the versatility one because it's better for you on the next tier, then that's fine. So their idea there is just to kind of get you to have a class specific trait. But yeah, that's what I covered in a previous video. So let's get to these new announced changes. So your weekly Mythic Plus chest now. There's a chance for it to drop Azerite armor. Some people speculated, I don't know if it was ever proven, that there was some luck protection on that to eventually give you Azerite armor from your Mythic Plus chest. However, it is not going to drop that anymore. Instead, it's going to drop a Mythic Plus currency. So this currency is going to be used in addition to the normal loot. So you'll get the loot, not Azerite, and then you'll get a currency. This currency will then be able to be used to purchase Azerite gear, and we'll go over that. So the Azerite gear is going to be from Thaumaturge Vashtreen. That's the ethereal guy we've seen for quite a while now. And you're going to be able to either buy a random piece of Azerite, so basically working the same way it does now. So if you like the way it is now, for a fairly cheap price, all things considered, you'll be able to buy just a random piece of Azerite gear of the appropriate level. I believe it isn't listed here. I believe it might scale with your item level. So it'll, if you are supposed to get 370, you'll get 370. And I think, don't quote me on this part. I'd have to look up to dive into this a little bit further. But I think someone said something about it even being up to 385. So if your item level is 385, you could actually get a 385 piece. I can't take that for certain. However, it's not in the current post I'm looking at, and I don't know that for sure. You can also buy a specific piece of Azerite gear, so one with a trait that you specifically want. So let's say a trait's far and above. However, it's going to cost you a little bit more of that Mythic Plus currency. So you can save up your currency and then to get a certain trait that you want, just because it's like the best piece for you. Only Azerite armor that drops after the patch will be able to scrap or disenchant into the currency. So this is interesting. So now if you scrap a piece of Azerite gear, you'll get a piece of that currency. Now, there's no point of saving up your gear, like I just said. It'll only be things that you receive after that patch goes live. When a new Mythic Plus season starts, so whenever the new raid tier comes out, basically, the item level of the stuff will go up as well. It'll scale up with the raid and with everything else. So it'll be a constant thing that it expands throughout this. The other interesting thing is they are thinking about doing it for PvP as well, to allow you to purchase things with your conquest points. Finally, this is something people wanted to do. They put in this random system, and not many people are happy with it. You don't get that great of loot from it anyways, and by the time you get the piece that you need from your conquest points, you probably already have a better piece. Like if you're a hardcore PvPer, you probably, so let's say you're like a super gladiator or something, you already have better gear and it doesn't matter to you anyways. So however, if you could save up your conquest points, maybe you could spend a very high amount on a random bracers that you really need, and you could do it that way. So I believe that would be a good change as well if they decide to put that in, but that's just being talked about. But again, the theme here is to have vendors and allow players choices on what they want, rather than it being completely RNG. Now, my thoughts on this is that it's of course a good change. I enjoyed having the conquest vendor as well. That's one thing I really liked about warlords actually, was how you could gear yourself with PvP. I definitely enjoyed that. With all the bad things about warlords, that was something I definitely enjoyed, was the exact way you could acquire your PvP gear there. So if they're gonna kind of make that system work for Azerite, I'm be completely fine with that personally. I like that you can disenchant or scrap Azerite gear um, to get the material needed or the currency needed to purchase it. And I like that people will be able to get the traits that they want, because I think that'll curb some of the anger towards the Azerite gear, because a lot of it is people not having the OP traits or considered overpowered traits, and feeling a little bit weaker because of it. So they'll be able to save it up and get the piece that they really want, and it might mean more to them because they saved up and got it. I do also do believe I don't think I mentioned this, but I think you get more of the currency um, up until a plus 10. So a plus 10 will give you more currency than doing like a plus 6, as it probably should, of course. So that's something too, and I definitely like that as well. I have no real complaints here. I was fine with the Azerite system personally, because I have pretty good Azerite gear now. It took me a while. I had really bad Azerite gear the first portion of raiding, and now I have good Azerite gear. I also am not a huge Mythic Plus person, so having Mythic Plus, so I don't really like have a Mythic Plus set of gear, for example. So I just use I use my the actual raiding Azerite, because I raid, and so that's what I use it for. So it gives me the haste when I'm in the raid. So that's what I use mostly, with an exception of another piece as well. So it wasn't so bad for me now. It took me a while to get there, but I was fine with that. But I completely understand that other players were not fine with it. They didn't like the fact that maybe they were raiding just as long as me, and maybe in a similar guild or whatever, and maybe they still don't have their Azerite pieces that I was lucky enough to get. So if you were those people, maybe if I was those people, maybe I would feel differently too. Although while I was struggling to get it, I wasn't too angry about it personally. But yeah, it's overall a great change. As I've said all along, I've done a few videos by Azerite. I said they're going to make changes as it goes on. They made changes to Legion artifacts as well. People forget very quickly, in this world, in this game, and everywhere in civilization. People forget very quickly, of all the changes that they make. Remember, we used to have to grind AP just to get a trait. So at least you get your first two rings of Azerite fairly easily without having to grind a ton of Azerite power. I have the first two rings at least on all my alts even, so it's not too difficult to get the traits. Whereas at the beginning of Legion, it was extremely difficult to get your traits. Not difficult isn't even the right word, but you probably didn't want to waste time playing on an alt or an off spec. Remember that. So until they made the changes to artifact power, there was a lot of issues with the Legion weapons as well. So just always remember that before you overreact to anything. Give them a chance to make a change, and if they don't make changes, then maybe you should get angry. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Yeah, please subscribe if you learned anything or enjoyed this video, and everybody have a good one.